Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1569B, and today's date is May 16th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Trust the Plan. The plan is not going to be straightforward. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Stefan Schaus. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you to the interview, or you can come over to the x22report.com or newsentinel.com websites, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the interview right on the site, or you can go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, it seems that more and more organizations are starting to ask questions about the Skripals. Nobody's heard from them. Nobody knows where they are. Even their relatives can't get in touch with them. Because what we're seeing right now is the niece of Sergei Skripal has had her visa request to Britain refused for the second time. And basically, the Home Office spokesperson said, and this is from the UK, "We have refused a visa application from Victoria Skripal on the grounds that she did not meet the requirements of the immigrant rules." And the longer this goes on, basically the worse it looks for the UK, because nobody knows where the Skripals have gone. They said they were recovering. They said they were getting better. Yulia contacted or tried to contact her fiance, but never could get in contact, and now they just completely disappeared, and no one has spoken to them. Now, of course, what that means is they were taken away. Maybe they're dead at this point, or maybe they're being held, and they don't want them to speak because they would speak the truth of what really happened, and we would come to find out that, hey, it wasn't really Russia that poisoned them, and again, the UK does not want this to come out. So we can see that there's a lot of dirty tricks going on here. They're trying to cover it up, and more individuals are asking questions. And we've seen this before with Seth Rich and all the others, where these strange occurrences happen and everyone pretends like, oh no, it's something completely different. But we know what it really is. We see out in North Korea, there's a lot of corporate media news out there saying that North Korea is going to quit because of these drills. These drills have been going on for quite a while. And North Korea already knew that these were planned. North Korea already agreed that these drills were going to be carried on. They already knew about it. There was already discussion about it. And this whole entire thing doesn't make any sense whatsoever. What I believe is happening right now, the deep state is trying once again to push propaganda out there, make everyone believe that North Korea is about to cancel, because again, they don't want this summit to go forward. Now, they might try something. They might try to have some type of false flag. They might try to push their agenda to make North Korea cancel. But we see right now the White House is saying that the talks are still on. They haven't received any information from North Korea about canceling the talks. So we can see right now the talks are still on. Actually, there are satellite images right now of North Korea, and it shows that they started to dismantle their nuclear weapons. And there are two pictures, one showing the buildings there, and the next satellite image showing that the buildings completely disappeared, and they took them down, and they're dismantling. Now, again, they're going to be inviting journalists and others in there to show that they're shutting all of this down. And the State Department, again, is saying that they're unaware of any problems at this point. Now, it doesn't mean that something might come up. It doesn't mean that the deep state might try something, because they do not want this summit to happen, because once they have the summit and the peace deal is signed, well, it's game over for the deep state in this area, which means South Korea, North Korea, they're going to reunite, they're going to come together, they're going to merge, and the deep state, everything that they have going on in North Korea with human trafficking, drugs, money laundering, you name it, goes down the tubes. So I wouldn't be surprised if something big happens in North Korea before the summit or during the summit to maybe have them cancel it while it's going on. We see the French oil company, they're saying they might pull out of the Iranian country and hand it over to China. Now, this is total. We talked about this before, where China would then take control of all of this. And Total is saying that they will not continue the SP-11 project and will have to unwind all related operations before November 4th, 2018, unless Total is granted a specific project waiver by U.S. authorities with support of the French and European authorities. We'll have to wait to see if this does happen, but we can see right now the European Union, the countries, they're reeling from this. They're trying to figure out what to do, and we see that the European Union's top diplomat, Federica Mogherini, said on Tuesday that the bloc would seek avenues for protecting businesses operating in Iran, even as the U.S. threatens to impose tighter sanctions on any company that dares to continue operating in Iran after the U.S. has revived its economic sanctions. Now, she said, while they can't provide any economic or legal guarantee to Iran, maybe at this point they can't make payments, they can't fund any of this, and they can't guarantee anything to Iran, the EU will find a way to keep badly needed investment flowing into Iran. And they expected to propose a few options in the coming weeks. So they're trying to keep the deal intact. They're trying to figure out a way to guarantee Iran some type of payment that the U.S. was doing before through this covert operation of moving funds into Iran. And we can see that the European Union, the European states, are saying, we need to move away from the U.S. and we can't depend on the U.S. Now, we're going to be talking about this a little bit later in this report about the plan and how the plan is not always straightforward. There's always turns and bumps and things like that. And we'll be talking about why the European nations are being pushed away from the U.S. We see that there has been an agreement between the Palestinians and Israel. Under the agreement, the Palestinians will pay off a debt of $915 million to Israel, and the agreement between both of them is basically Palestinian officials will take control of the electricity in their area, ending Israeli control. And they came to an agreement on May 1st, and basically what's going to happen here is that Israel used to control their electricity. They just shut it off and then they turned it back on. Now the Palestinians will have control of their electric. Russian warships with Caliber cruise missiles, they're going to be permanently on duty in the Mediterranean Sea. This is from Putin, saying they need to protect the area. And we can see right now they're protecting Syria. The Syrian army has made more gains in Syria. The Syrian army has full control over the entire northern Homs pocket, and we see right now 65 villages and towns in the northern Homs pocket have been freed from the terrorist groups, from the moderate rebels. 31,000 militants and their relatives withdrew from these towns and villages under the agreement, and we see right now that they are taking back all these areas, and the people there are cheering that the terrorists are leaving, the moderate rebels are leaving, and they're screaming and yelling that we're free now, we're free now. And these terrorist groups, the moderate rebels, they have handed over all their weapons to the Syrian government. So we see at this point that Syria is making huge gains in their country, pushing the terrorists out. Iraq is pushing the Islamic State north away from the Iraqi border, and the Islamic State and other terrorist groups don't have the ability to cross between Iraq and Syria anymore. Their funding has been cut off. Think about what has happened in Syria. I mean, we've been reporting on this for a very long time. The funding to the Kurds has been stopped. The training programs have been canceled. The funding for the training program have been canceled. The Islamic State and them shipping oil from Syria into Turkey, that has been stopped. All their funding completely stopped. The funding to the White Helmets, which is really part of Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, that has been cut off. And the only thing left is for the OPCW to say, hey, there was no chemical attack here. Yeah, we have little traces of chlorine, but we don't show a huge chemical attack of sarin or anything like that. And the bodies don't have any type of indicator showing that there's chemical weapons used, and the White Helmets lied about the whole entire thing. Hopefully that does come out, because that would just seal the whole thing up. So we can see right now, Syria, no matter what Israel does at this point, they're not going to get Syria back the way they had it with the coalition forces, with the deep state, where they're going to be able to remove Assad. Those days are over. And we can see right now, as the Syrian forces move south and get closer and closer to the border, they're going to be taking back their entire country. We see Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has accused the U.S. of hiding thousands of terrorists in Syria from justice. She said, "We have taken note of the fact that the U.S. administration is keeping quiet about the several thousand foreign terrorists who have been detained by the U.S.-led coalition and the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces. Are they really detained, or is the deep state protecting them? Most likely protecting them." Zakharova said, "We know the number of the terrorists. We know the conditions. We know where they are. We know how many there are. And we know where they're from." And we could see right now, they're calling out the deep state to say, hey, we know they're there. We know they're in the Kurdish area. And pretty soon you're probably going to see a lot more helicopters come in and fly them off. Now the question is, why don't they hand them over if they have all these terrorists? Because they're paid mercenary forces. But we can see right now the 5 Islamic State leaders that were caught, they're going to spill the beans and they're going to talk. And they're going to basically tell everyone what they know, because they're paid mercenaries. They have no allegiance to anything. They have allegiance to money. And guess what? No more money. Guess what? We'll spill the beans. Now let's talk about the plan. And we know that Q continually says, trust the plan, trust the plan. And I think a lot of people are looking for a plan that is just completely straightforward, where Trump comes in or the Patriots come in and they sweep through, they make all these arrests, they clean out everything, and everything is done in a snap of a finger and everything is completely done. Well, it's kind of hard to do that. Not making excuses or anything like that, but think about this for a second. They are the deep state. They've been in government for a very long time. They've been in power for a very long time. They have the central bank as their financier. They have a lot of funds. They know how to work the system. They've controlled the corporate media for a very long time. They're allowed to feed us propaganda, which they've been doing for quite a while. And they put all these laws into place, or executive orders, and right now, all of them have to be undone. Now, the central banking system, along with the deep state, has controlled the world. Most of the countries have a private Western central bank. Russia took theirs over. Iran does not. Many countries still don't, but a lot of the countries, especially the ones with the coalition forces, they do. And if you want to stop the deep state, what do you have to do? You have to go after the Rothschild central banking system. How do you do this? Well, you got to create confusion. You got to create chaos. You need to push countries away from the central banking system, which is the Fed. You need to move them into different currencies. Move them away from the dollar, maybe move them into the yuan, the ruble, or even cryptocurrencies. You need to destroy the funding of the deep state. And remember, over many, many years, since 1913, the central bank has grown. Deep state has grown, and they're huge. So let's go into the plan. What has Trump been doing? Well, he got rid of a lot of things that the deep state set up. The Paris Climate Accord, he set up executive orders to go after those individuals with human trafficking and things like that. And he's doing many, many different things. Things that he can do very easily, they're being done. NAFTA, for instance, a little bit tougher because Congress voted on it. He'd have to go back to Congress and try to unwind this whole thing. So he's trying to renegotiate this whole thing right now. And maybe he'll have to pursue this whole thing later on. He's trying to build a wall to shut down arms dealing, trying to shut down drugs that are going back and forth between the border, trying to shut down human trafficking that's going between the border. So that is taking some time. Trying to write some executive orders to beef up border security. Everything that Obama allowed to happen, where people were allowed to jump over the border, hop on a bus, go to a sanctuary city. And you can see right now that the deep state has been trying to get Trump for a very long time. And you need to remember, a lot of these individuals in government, they're part of the deep state or part of another foreign entity where they're getting funding. And most of the people are not true patriots. They're still controlled. And it looks like Trump has been using these individuals to push certain agendas. And once he's finished with them, he gets rid of them. For example, North Korea. During the whole North Korean crisis, everyone was out there saying we're going to war. Trump was out there tweeting that we have bigger nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons, our button's bigger, we're going to hit you. And then we had the propaganda from Kim Jong-un, who was saying that we're going to fire our missiles, we're going to protect, we're going to strike you first. And this was going back and forth. Now, during this period of time, we had McMaster's, who was out there speaking and how we're going to invade and how we're building a plan that we're going to be attacking any day. Now, Trump brings these individuals on for a specific reason. They're part of the deep state. He gets to watch them. He gets to observe them. He gets to see what they're doing. And it's not just Trump. When I say Trump, I mean the patriots. I mean other individuals that are helping out with this. It's not just him alone. And once they get where they want to be, that is, Korea, for instance, they get rid of that individual. They don't need that individual anymore. Other deep state operatives are Nikki Haley, and there are many more where, he brought on Bolton. Why? Because the next phase was Iran. He does this on purpose. So we see right now that North Korea, the summit is still on. Now, if this is called off because of the deep state and we end up in war, then we don't have to worry about any of this stuff because we'll be going to war with Russia, China, and everything else. But I don't think it's going to get that far. Hopefully not. And we can see that North Korea and South Korea, they're making plans to become unified, work together, just like East and West Germany. And we see that this is moving forward. Now, China is also working with all these countries because you need the country to be secure, because in this new economic system, the countries need to be secure. We can't be going to war because the economic system that we're in right now is completely breaking down. They know this. Think about it. If they just let it break down and we completely collapse, there'll be death, there'll be poverty. It would be a disaster, not just here in the United States. It would be like this around the world. They're fighting against time right now. What system are we in right now? This is not a free and open people system where we're in control. This is the central banking system. This entire economic model is based off the central banking system, something our founding fathers completely fought against. We need to get rid of this system first. And this is what we're doing. Now, can we just shut it off? No, because it would basically make the whole entire world go into chaos, and it would be a complete disaster. So what do you need to do? You need to slowly move everything. Now, the central bankers, they want everything to be moved into their new system. And I think Trump and the Patriots, and this is why he has Andrew Jackson hanging on his wall, I think the end game is still to get rid of the central banks. And this is being worked with Russia and China. So we can see that Iran is next. So he brought on Bolton. Now we know Bolton's a neocon. He's a warmonger. He wants regime change. He wants war like nobody's business. And for Iran, he needs Bolton to watch him. He needs to understand what their motives are, what they're going to use, what they're going to try to do. And he's keeping the enemy very, very close. This is why Q said, watch Bolton. And once again, he canceled the Iranian deal. Why? To expose those who have secret deals with payments in Iran, expose those dealing in uranium, create chaos in the region, create chaos among countries. Why would he want to do this? What would be the purpose of this? To damage the deep state. You need to break up the funding. You need countries to be in chaos. You need the deep state broken. How do you do this? Well, he just did it. What is Europe doing right now? What did Germany say? Well, we can't depend on the U.S. anymore. We can't depend on them to protect us. We might have to look towards Russia or do it ourselves. We might have to keep the deal ourselves. The EU is looking to keep the deal themselves. France is looking to lift the sanctions against Russia. I mean, think about what's happening right now. So the plan is to push the EU away from the U.S. Remember, all of this was together in one big, gigantic, deep state kind of web system. And he needs to break them up and to make them start to wonder what's going on here. Everyone is trying to protect themselves, and eventually they will blame each other, hopefully. So right now, that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing the European countries scramble to keep the deal. And they're trying to figure out a way not to be exposed in what they've been doing all this time. And a lot of these countries are looking towards Russia and China, getting rid of the sanctions. They're looking for bilateral trade deals. And maybe we'll even sign the One Belt, One Road system, because this is where it is all going. So we can see that this is part of the plan, and the plan kind of mimics what happened in North Korea, but it's taking this whole thing to the next level. So what is the end goal to stop the deep state? Well, we want to bring those to justice, those individuals that are corrupt, those people that are in deep with human trafficking, pedophilia, corruption, money laundering, and you name it. That's what they're trying to build these cases on. And this is why they keep mentioning these indictments. I think it's almost time that they need to unseal these indictments. The other thing they're trying to do is bring the troops home, because there's no reason to have the troops there. This was the deep state's plan, to have invasions and regime change in all these countries. Trump mentioned bringing home the troops on purpose. Nothing is by coincidence. He did it on purpose to push the deep state. He pushed them into having a false flag. This was done on purpose. And this entire push is to bring the troops home and stop the push to war, and to move the entire system off of the central banking system as the system collapses, and set the U.S. and other nations up for the transition. That's what this is really about. Removing the deep state is not going to be easy. They're going to fight back. They're going to use dirty tricks. They're going to use any method they possibly can. Remember, they still have control of the corporate media. And when the corporate media puts out a story like North Korea is going to bomb the U.S. or North Korea is going to quit the summit talks, everyone picks it up and goes with it. And many people believe it. Many people believe that this is what North Korea is really saying. But once again, how do you know? You don't. You don't know if North Korea is really saying this. They just put out a story. South Korean news just put out a story. Again, they don't tell you the sources. They don't tell you really much of anything. And you can see right now, they're still pushing their agenda. They're not going to give up. So when you look at this, you can see that getting rid of the deep state is not just snapping your fingers and saying they're gone. That's why they're called the deep state. They're deep into the system, and it takes time to remove them. Yes, the easy things of canceling the TPP, saying we're not going to be in the Paris Climate Accord and writing up executive orders, that part was easy. The rest is a little bit more difficult. And the plan is not always straightforward, where you're like, oh, we should just go into Iran, we should just get rid of the deep state, we should just have peace there. Well, those people are not going to cooperate. They're not just going to say, hey, yeah, you're right, you know what, let's just have peace. Look what it took to have peace in North Korea. So what returns the power to the people? Well, giving the people back the power of creating their own currency, taking the power away from the central bank, letting the population keep their weapons to protect themselves against those that would do harm. The truth. The truth returns the power to the people. And that's what we're doing right now. We are returning the truth to the people. And this is why when Trump first came into office, he talked about fake news and pointed fingers. It wasn't about these little stories. It was about propaganda the corporate media was using. Remember, there's a lot of people that were asleep who don't realize that the corporate media is spewing propaganda. The whole Russian collusion thing was one gigantic propaganda conspiracy thing that they just made up out of thin air. Assad gassing his own people, something they just made up to push their agenda. He wanted people to wake up. Not just him. When I say Trump, it's not just him. It's those patriots. Wanted people to wake up and they wanted them to start to think. Is it true? Isn't it true? Let's do a little research. That's really what Q is about. Think. Do a little research. Figure things out. Are they telling you the truth? Find the connections. That's what this is all about. It's the push to bring back the truth into our system. We've been living in a world of propaganda, in a world of illusion for a very long time. It is now time to break free of that. And once you have the truth, that is more powerful than anything else. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.